The air at table 18 was different. While the rest of the ballroom shimmered with the clean scents of gardenias and expensive perfume, our corner, near the kitchen doors, carried the warm, yeasty smell of bread rolls and the faint, metallic hint of dishwashing steam. It was the overflow section, a title that perfectly captured our standing in the family. My 8-year-old daughter, Mia, was a portrait of concentration, her small hands carefully adding purple swirls to a princess coloring book. Across a sea of sparkling crystal and laughter, my sister Lauren was the radiant epicenter of it all, accepting kisses and compliments in her pristine gown. The distance between us wasn't just measured in feet, but in a lifetime of being her shadow. I, Sophia, the older sister, the single mother, the one who could have been more like Lauren, was the inconvenient guest at her perfect party. But what Lauren, flushed with champagne and adoration, didn't realize was that I hadn't come to beg for crumbs of attention. I had come armed with the truth, and her flawless day was balanced on a nice edge of her own making. The fissure had been created 3 months prior, with a phone call that felt more like a business negotiation. "I need you to do me a favor," Lauren had said, her voice clipped, "for the wedding." When I'd eagerly agreed, she dropped her offer. "I need you and Mia not to come." The justification was coldly practical. Her fiancé Brett's family was image conscious. Then came the figure, stated not as a plea, but as a transaction. "I'm offering you $15,000 to stay home. Consider it a gift." $15,000 for someone who worked 2 jobs, dental assistant by day, caterer by weekend, to keep a roof over our heads. It was a staggering sum. It was a year of breathing room. For one dizzying moment, I saw the relief it could buy. Then I heard my mother's voice in the background on speakerphone. "It's very generous, sweetie. Lauren's just trying to keep things elegant." My father's gruff addendum. A kid that age at a formal wedding, it's a lot to manage. Their endorsement of the bribe was the poison in the cup. This wasn't a gift. It was a purchase order for our absence, a financial erasure of a sister and a niece deemed unworthy. "We're family," I'd whispered, the words tasting like ash. Lauren's response was a frosty, "Fine, but don't expect any special treatment." The wedding invitation, when it arrived, was the official decree. Table 18. I knew the venue. It was the literal last table, positioned where guests could smell the trash being taken out. I pinned it to my fridge, a daily reminder of the battle I hadn't chosen but would not run from. The pre-wedding events were a meticulous chipping away of my dignity. At her bridal shower, I presented a handmade photo album filled with pictures of our childhood, us building forts, sharing ice cream cones, faces smeared with joy. Lauren flipped through it with the enthusiasm of someone reviewing a tax document, offered a thin, "That's sweet," and placed it aside, immediately reaching for a set of monogram's luggage. My mother, noticing, whispered just loud enough, "Sophia's on the budget. She does what she can." Later, as we left, Mia's small voice asked the question that had no good answer. "Mommy, why doesn't Aunt Lauren like us?" The final straw was accidental. Uninvited to the rehearsal dinner, I went to drop off a forgotten wrap and overheard Lauren in the hallway with her bridesmaids. "I offered her 15 grand to skip it, but she's too stubborn. Guess she wants the free meal. Don't worry, I put her at the worst table. She'll get the message." I stood frozen, Mia's hand in mine, then turned and left before the words could sear her innocence. In that moment, my sadness hardened into resolve. I would not be erased. So I prepared. Mia got a beautiful new dress and we practiced wedding behavior. But I also prepared for a different kind of battle. I began to document. Screenshots of every harsh text. "This day is about me, not your kid." A photo of the seating chart, and most importantly, a recorded voicemail of her bribe offer, legal in our state. I wasn't planning a scene. I was building a case for our right to exist in that space. My friend Angela, a fellow caterer, was my lone ally, and by fate was working the wedding. "You have proof," she told me. "Hold your head high." The wedding day was a spectacle of Lauren's design. From our exile at table 18, we watched her golden hour. Mia was an angel, whispering, coloring, being invisibly perfect. Yet I could feel Lauren's gaze like a physical weight, a laser of resentment tracking our every move. Her hatred for our presence was a silent scream in the room. The trigger was innocuous. As the dessert buffet opened, Mia, with my permission, went to choose a cupcake. I watched her careful selection, her face lit with simple joy. Then I saw Lauren stand. The transformation was immediate and terrifying. The serene bride vanished, replaced by a woman possessed. Her face flushed crimson, her jaw clenched. She stalked across the dance floor, a hurricane in white. She reached Mia before I could. "I told you to stay away," she hissed, shoving me violently aside when I stepped between them. Then, in a flash of shocking cruelty, her hand shot out, wrapped around Mia's neat ponytail, and yanked my daughter backward with all her strength. The sound Mia made, a sharp, guttural scream of terror, silenced the music, the chatter, the world. 200 faces snapped towards us, frozen in collective shock. A roar of pure instinct erupted from me. I grabbed Lauren's wrist, twisting until she let go, and gathered my sobbing, trembling child into my arms. "Don't you ever touch my daughter," I seethed, my voice shaking with a fury I never knew I possessed. In the echoing silence, Lauren panicked. Seeing the audience, she switched tactics. Tears, real or not, streamed down her face as she pointed a dramatic finger at me. "She wasn't supposed to be here," she wailed to the crowd. "I paid her to stay away." A wave of gasps rolled through the room. She had just confessed her shame to everyone. Brett rushed over, his face pale with shame. "Lauren, you paid her?" Holding Mia close, her tears soaking my shoulder, I found an eerie calm. "I offered her $15,000 to not come to your wedding. I said no. That does not give her the right to assault my child." Then I looked past her, to the venue manager who had emerged from the crowd, his expression grave. "I have the voicemail of that offer, and I assume this venue has security cameras covering this area." The manager nodded once, his voice firm and final. "We do, and I witnessed the entire event." That was the moment her world disintegrated. Lauren's eyes darted from Brett's horrified face to the manager's stern one, to the sea of guests whose admiration had curdled into disgust. "You're all overreacting," she cried, but the words were hollow, swallowed by the judgment in the room. I saw guests shaking their heads, some already turning to leave. I knelt, wiping Mia's cheeks. "It's over, sweetheart. We're going home." I lifted her into my arms. I looked at my sister, this stranger in a ruined wedding dress. "I hope your perfect day was worth it, Lauren." Then I turned my back on the glittering wreckage and walked out. We didn't run. We exited with our dignity, leaving the stunned silence behind. The aftermath was a quiet tsunami. Brett called, his voice hollow with apology and disillusionment. My parents tried their old refrain, "Wedding stress, a misunderstanding." But for the first time, I did not bend. "She attacked my child," I said, my voice allowing no argument. "That is the only fact that matters." Lauren never apologized. She simply erased me, blocking me on all fronts. I later heard the marriage crumbled under the weight of the truth. But the victory was never in her downfall. It was in the profound peace that followed. Months later, on a sunny morning in our small kitchen, Mia looked up from a bowl of cookie dough, her face smudged with flour. "Mommy," she asked, her voice light and free of its old worry, "are we going to Aunt Lauren's next party?" I brushed a strand of hair from her forehead, my heart full in a way it never had been in my family's presence. "No, baby, we're not." She simply nodded, content, and went back to stirring. In that ordinary, flour-dusted moment, I understood everything. The exile they had enforced was not a punishment, but a liberation. The money they'd offered for our silence was a shackle I had miraculously refused. I didn't need a seat at their fragile, performative table. My world, real, resilient, and built on a love that does not hit or bribe or exclude, was right here, and it was finally, completely enough.